Inside Gaming is sponsored by ExpressVPN. Your data is your business. Protected at expressvpn.com/inside.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to Inside Gaming Daily for Tuesday, and oh baby, have we got a spicy one for you. We're spinning the wheel, my favorite way to open the show, and what do we got? It's loot boxes!
We did it again. So we've talked a lot about loot boxes in video games over the last few years, how they've been used to monetize games in what many would say is a really controversial way.
That's really bold of you.
Over to you, Zach.
Thanks, I'll take it from here, Patrick. There's been a growing movement over the years about whether or not they constitute gambling, and they should be banned for children. Do we really want our kids gambling, or do we want to get them started early? Make sure they know how to do it responsibly.
Think of the children. Do they want to walk away losing?
How to count cards.
Yes.
I mean, if you get them started early, teach them how to do it responsibly, they're less likely to abuse it later in life. That's just facts.
I aspire to be a mom in a wheelchair in a Las Vegas airport with my kid on my lap, just cranking away at those slot machines.
Big ol' cigarette.
A few countries have done that, banned it for children, and in others like the UK, there is a growing movement to have something done about them.
Now the ESRB has stepped up to the plate. So what did they do? They gave loot box games the dreaded M rating? No.
Wow.
No, they didn't. They didn't do that. They didn't do that. Yeah, no. They just added 3 words and some parentheses.
Justice is swift and vague and disappointing. Parenthetical, the old ESRB is not playing around this time, are they, Zachary?
No, they are not. In a blog post, the ratings board announced that for games with loot boxes, they're adding 3 words in the description, includes random items. That goes under the in-game purchases label that they've had for the last couple of years.
Yeah, the ESRB says that the includes random items label will be assigned to any game that contains in-game offers to purchase digital goods or premiums with real-world currency, for which the player doesn't know prior to purchase the specific digital goods or premiums they will be receiving. That's like when you go to a thrift store or some vintage shop and they have those lunch bags that are like $5 grab bag, and it's all McDonald's toys.
I've never seen that. So why did they do this? Well, the ESRB noted that according to research, parents are far more concerned about their child's ability to spend real money in games than the fact that these in-game purchases may be randomized. They're concerned because it's gambling. They're gambling. That's the problem.
Nothing shows the parents' concern more than putting 3 tiny little words on a box that the child will absolutely not pay any attention to either.
Nor will the parent. The ESRB said that since they added the in-game purchases label a few years ago, they've been getting requests to specifically identify games with randomized purchases. Because in-game purchases could mean a lot of things from DLC to cosmetics. It's a big ol' umbrella. Ella.
Yeah, they finished up by saying, as always, we will continue to monitor how video games evolve and innovate to ensure that we provide parents and other consumers with the information they need to make informed decisions about which games and apps are appropriate for their family. They care about us. It's the ESRB.
A+ corporate speak.
Not a single word in there really has any meaning behind it, but damn, it sounds good.
And yet each word somehow means 5 things, so they can go down each path depending on how they're confronted. It's right up there with GameStop putting the health and safety of their employees and customers first. GameStop, it's in the bag. GameStop is like a holistic company now, and they're like, you have the power to fight any disease inside you.
They suddenly take a hard anti-vax stance.
Yeah.
Essential business, more like essential oils.
That's really good.
So that was their big adjustment to include loot boxes. 3 words. Incidentally, they said they didn't use the term loot boxes because they said it's a misunderstood term, and they want to avoid confusing customers.
This all feels like the ESRB is just adding some fine print at the bottom in a physical game that's going to be really hard to read, and you can imagine parents not really, paying attention to it at all.
And they're completely avoiding the bigger issue that these mechanics are still being offered in games that are rated for children. In the ESRB's own example of the new wording, it was added to a T for teen rating.
Radical!
Technically, you can gamble as a teen.
And fight for your country, so they're implicitly saying this stuff is fine for kids while pretending to be concerned about parents making smart choices. Okay, but the big question here is the ESRB's job to decide whether or not loot boxes should be in games rated for kids. We'll dive into that in a moment. But first, if you're pulling out your hair over how brain-dead stupid this all is, don't fret. You can avoid going bald with Keeps.
Hey, thanks for that sweet segue. Yeah, you don't have to go broke to avoid going bald. Keeps offers generic versions of the only 2 FDA-approved hair loss products out there. Some of you may have tried them before, but probably never for this price. 2 out of 3 guys will experience some form of male pattern baldness by the time they're 35. Yikes, that clock's ticking. I'm getting there. The good news, with today's advancements in science, Keeps offers proven treatments that can combat the symptoms of hair loss and help you keep the hair you have half the cost of your local pharmacy. Prevention is key. Keeps treatments really work. They're up to 90% effective at reducing and stopping further hair loss. The sooner you start using Keeps, the more hair you'll save, so, act fast. Many men even experience hair regrowth with Keeps treatments. That's right, get hair you didn't even know you had in the first place. If you're ready to take action and prevent hair loss, go to keeps.com/inside to receive your first month of treatment for free. That's KEEPS.com/inside. Go to keeps.com/inside to receive your first month of treatment for free. Back to you, boys. I guess it's all of us.
So should the ESRB really control whether or not loot boxes appear in games rated for children? Well, they certainly exercise that authority when it comes to games with sex and violence. Cool. If there's a certain amount, the ESRB will rate those games M for mature.
But implicitly with this announcement, they seem to be admitting that it is not their job to make that judgment call for loot boxes. And this is the main weakness of the ESRB.
So it's glowing belly part that you have to strike 3 times to win.
It's a big eyeball.
It's a big eyeball and a hand.
Its tongue sticks out and it's huge and red, and it's like, don't hit my tongue, and you do it.
And flashing.
Blum, 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 and it freezes. He's just kind of like woozy.
You have to tap X to attack it, and then a series of other buttons after that.
Yeah, so it's worth noting that the ESRB is not some independent industry that exists outside of the video game industry. It is 100% a creation of the industry. It all started in the early 90s when games like Mortal Kombat were making headlines for violence, and Democratic Senators Joe Lieberman and Herb Kohl hold hearings about violent games and their possible effects on children.
What are we gonna do with the children? Thank God we have brave senators to fight these battles for us.
Those led to the video game industry regulating itself. The ESRB was thus created. The rating system was created in 1994 by the Entertainment Software Association, and the rating system exists to this day. And here we are talking about it.
It was a move by the industry to regulate itself so that the government wouldn't get involved. It's fundamentally meant to protect the game developers and publishers, not necessarily the consumers.
And the ESA has defended loot boxes at every step of the way, insisting that they aren't the same as gambling.
An ESA representative told GamesIndustry.biz back in 2018 that contrary to assertions, loot boxes are not gambling. They have no real-world value. Players always receive something that enhances their experience, and they are entirely optional to purchase.
Oh, and if you're wondering, PEGI 18. Basically, the European equivalent of the ESRB is doing the same thing, adding a label that says includes paid random items.
Peggy
18.
I like stories about pinatas.
Oh, yeah. Right, just a little to the left.
I'm about to bust.
But yeah, there's no indication that the actual presence of loot boxes will affect the game's overall rating. It would be like labeling a game E for everyone, and then putting include sex and graphic violence in the description. You might as well wipe it all off and just write for cool kids, because damn, this new Zelda game is kind of edgy.
I'd definitely be going over to that kid's house. He's probably got swords, too.
Well, his dad has swords.
His dad let him buy a katana from the mall.
When you turn 18, this is yours.
And it breaks.
Well, it's cool if it's broken.
That's true, because then you can get it reforged. Like the shards of Narsil. So why is this happening now? Well, because the tide of public opinion is shifting against loot boxes, and so the industry is trying to bend, but not break, on the issue. Like good, strong steel.
Yeah, loot boxes have been around for a while, but it was Battlefront 2 in 2017 that really pushed them to the forefront of the news. It was an overly monetized, pay-to-win mess, and boy, the fans revolted.
Government started taking a closer look too. Belgium and the Netherlands banned loot boxes on the grounds that they're too similar to games of chance. Various commissions in the UK have also likened them to gambling, and there have been calls to regulate them that way, but there's been no official action taken against them.
Care to play a game of chance? But it's also like some anime guy holding a set of dice.
Blue is the boy, red his mother.
Tell me, are you feeling lucky?
Here in the US, the Federal Trade Commission has looked into the issue, but there's been no action either. All of this has clearly terrified the industry, because if loot boxes are banned in games that children can buy, that means they'll have to give up a big percentage of their profits.
Yeah, we've talked about this a lot, but loot boxes have become a major part of the profits for the big publishers.
Yeah, back in 2017, FIFA Ultimate Team was bringing in up to $800 million annually to EA, so you can see why they wouldn't want to give something like that up.
So the industry has been backing down somewhat. Nintendo, Microsoft, and Sony, along with most of the big publishers, have said they'll require odds disclosure in loot boxes starting this year.
But loot boxes are still here, especially in sports game where you can buy players, games like FIFA's Ultimate Team mode.
NBA 2K20 is also monetized to a really disgusting degree. It's even got a slot machine in the game. It has like a bunch of gambling apparati in the game. It's like it's just a huge casino, and it's rated E for everyone.
Yeah, so the reality is that despite all of the ESRB's talk about wanting to help parents, they're fine with loot boxes being offered to children because they could do a lot more, like giving M ratings to games with loot boxes in them. I don't know, that's just a suggestion.
But they're not going to do that unless they're forced to.
Why would they? There's money.
And it doesn't benefit the ESA to stop that inflow of cash. So yeah, this is a pretty stark example of the industry being being completely unwilling to regulate itself because, like we just said, it will cost them too much money. So, sorry. I mean, until this whole money thing goes away, which it's just a fad, like television and the Beatles. Let's hunt for the demise of loot boxes as more and more developers are flushing them down the toilet before the law catches up with them. This is forced morality at its finest.
Big news in the loot box world recently. Another game has decided to get rid of them, and in this case, it's actually a pretty big game, Destiny 2.